I only got 4 hours of sleep last night. And somebody else will remark, oh, I haven't slept, a full 8 hours in the last 2 years. Like, that's not something to be proud of. Make the stress and the anxiety seem like it's something normal. And if you aren't insanely stressed out, then there's something wrong.
And yet so many people live like that, and then they can't understand why their life is unraveling or falling apart.
Yes,
right?
yes.
But you have that fire, and you just know, you have this peace around you, like you just know that this is where I'm supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Welcome to M-powerTV, where we leave a legacy of hope through conversations that uplift, educate, and inspire. Listen to incredible stories of people who overcame challenges and barriers, celebrate victories, learn from setbacks, and push forward together.
And you would hear all this torture, and then they would shoot.
Want to be empowered? Let's go. Subscribe for more and get this book now.
Hi, my name is Lorna Grayling and welcome to M-powerTV. Today we are sitting with Kristen McEwen, and she is from Alchemy Wellness Experiences. And we're going to be talking about how to deal with stress, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my goodness, I am so excited about today because I think this is something that everybody should be talking about, right?
Absolutely.
I think stress is like the #1 thing that everybody's dealing with. It's almost, kind of okay to have anxiety because everyone has it.
Absolutely.
But we don't have to, right?
No, we don't. And so many people, I think, try to make light of the situation and joke about it. And then there's other people who will kind of try to one-up each other and make the stress and the anxiety seem like it's something normal. And if you aren't insanely stressed out, then there's something wrong with you.
Right. Yeah. It's a joke these days. Like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you stressed?
Right, right. And people will joke about, saying, oh, I only got 4 hours of sleep last night. And somebody else will remark, oh, I haven't slept, a full 8 hours in the last 2 years. Like, that's not something to be proud of. It's hard.
And yet so many people live like that, and then they can't understand why their life is unraveling or falling apart.
Yes,
right?
Yes. And not only that, but they don't understand why they can't relax. If given the opportunity to sit and just be still for a moment, chaos starts to bubble up. And it doesn't feel good. So it's something that people will try to avoid now.
So it's almost like getting used to that stressful feeling, that anxiety almost becomes normal.
It is. It's your new normal.
Yeah, that's tough, right?
It is.
Because when that's your normal and that's your state of what you're familiar with, how do you get out of that state? Do you have to realize that first?
You do have to realize that has become your new normal. Your body is always trying to reach homeostasis. It's trying to find a balance. So anytime that you are in a really heightened state, you move from like a normal state to, a fight or flight response, which is totally normal. We need that. We need stress to get out of bed. We need stress to get to work. Minimal amounts of stress. But whenever we have these extremely heightened ones, we can stay in fight or flight for a lot longer. And that can become a trauma response.
Yeah. And how dangerous is it? Like, what are the effects when we're staying in that fight or flight? Because so before you answer that, I just want to, because our audience might not know, but Kristen was actually in the police force, right? I mean, your whole life was fight or flight.
It was.
This was your career.
It
right?
was. And it's funny because I realized that is not something that my body does well in. I do not do well in extremely heightened, states of stress. Some people are able to kind of compartmentalize better, and that's wonderful for them, but that did not work for me.
Yeah. So how did you because now you were on this side, and it's like 180 degree, now you're in this complete relaxed environment. Like when I come to your studio, it is like heaven on earth. It is so peaceful and so relaxing. Yeah, from one to the other.
Yeah.
How did you get out, and what made you take that change?
Yeah, so I actually started in real estate as my career as an adult, my big girl job. And I really didn't have any satisfaction in that. So I took a break and decided to do something completely different. And I went to the police academy. So I was like, well, I'm going to go be a cop. So I did that for a while. And I just realized that wasn't the right career for me. And I've always just been kind of chasing me. What is going to bring me fulfillment and joy. So, that might be real estate for a little bit, law enforcement for a little bit. I'm kind of constantly evolving into whatever that next version looks like. So I went back to real estate after police work didn't work out. And that was extremely stressful. People don't understand how stressful real estate can be. But after I realized that wasn't the ticket either, I started doing skincare work. So I went to school and I found that I loved to touch people. Wow. I loved doing the facials. I loved doing the facial massage. And I realized that there was something really, really powerful about being able to help people get to a really relaxed state.
Yeah, because that's what you specialize in. Like if I would, so I owned my own skincare and I've been for multiple facials and things. But when I come to you, it's like, it's a whole different atmosphere.
It is.
Like, it is just totally so relaxing. Like I can't wait for my facial because it's like the world can just dissolve around you and that you just have that moment of just relaxing. So going back to real estate from the police force, do you think that part of it being so super stressful was because you might have gone back to something that wasn't really your path? Kind of going back to something that you thought would work out, but that it wasn't really where you were supposed to be, apart from the fact that it's, a stressful career. But
I think that I had started to kind of create that level of balance where I knew, okay, this is my baseline of stress. This is normal. This is okay. But I was able to manage the stress okay. I just was not happy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that causes even more stress, right?
It really does.
When you're not where you're supposed to be in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember when I started my wellness center and I loved it. I loved what I was doing. And then my life kind of evolved and, I was supposed to be moving into television and being, able to tell people stories and giving them that platform.
Yeah.
But I wasn't quite there yet. So in that in-between time of managing this huge business, all these responsibilities, and wanting to be knowing that I should actually be doing something else with my life.
Yeah.
I felt like that created almost more stress for me than the actual workload and the stress of the day.
Well, whenever we do that, a lot of times we are sort of betraying our inner voice.
Sure.
So it's telling us, hey, we really shouldn't be doing this anymore. And we're like, shh, be quiet. This is what's comfortable.
But how am I going to pay the bills?
Right.
How am I going to get there?
Right. Yeah. It's a scary jump. It's a really scary jump, but having the faith in yourself and your abilities, it will take you a long way.
Sure, yeah. And then just to make that jump, there's just so much freedom. I remember when I just did it, like I just went out and just started with what I knew I was called for.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And there was no income. There was, but I didn't know how I was going to do it. But you have that fire and you just know, you have this peace around you. Like you just know that this is where I'm supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Right? So how do people get to that space? Like maybe someone's watching now and they're just so stressed, constantly anxious, not sleeping enough. Like what would your advice be? Where do they even start trying to figure out who they are and where should I be in life and how can I get there?
That's such a great question. Honestly, my advice would be to start learning who you are. Trying to find activities that are of interest to you. And they may seem extremely random. It might be, I want to go try stand-up paddleboard yoga for the first time. Or, I want to go work from a cafe instead of my office. Just taking those little intuitive hits and learning more about yourself through different experiences and allowing yourself to have that time, because most people will say, I'm too busy to do that. I can't do that. Well, you're going to keep on the same path that you are right now. So if that's not working, then you got to change.
That's so true, right?
Yeah.
If where you're at isn't working out for you, you got to change something.
Yeah.
Right. So true and so powerful, yet it's not so easy.
It's not easy. It's not easy. It's like when children are in school and their minds are everywhere and the teacher is telling them, focus, focus. Well, wouldn't that be lovely? Wouldn't that be great? Yeah. So it's the same thing with like, well, why don't you just relax? Well, my body is telling me that I'm not safe. Because we have created this reality where our mind and our body are not at the same place. And the body can recognize like triggers that are not actually present at the moment. So it can send you into spirals if you have those really high amounts of stress.
Sure. And so where do you, how do you then start relaxing? Like when you have a patient or a client for that matter, that is just at such a heightened space where they just can't, like how do you even start working with someone like that?
That's kind of why I created the environment the way that I did. Like whenever you come into my studio, it's not like an average spa. It's very dark and moody. I feel like that really just allows people to not have to focus on something, not focus on looking at something or taking in everything around them. So I want to use things like aromatherapy, really dim lights, and I can kind of take somebody from a really heightened state just by conversing. So I can change my cadence and my tone and voice. I can change the subject of what we're talking about. I can start to kind of slow my hand movements as I'm, doing cleansing or facial massage. And that's all kind of letting that person's body know that it's safe and it's okay to just relax. Yeah, you have to get to their level and then you have to bring them down.
Yeah, and you're phenomenal at that. I don't know what you do and how you do it, but when I walk out there, I'm like on clouds. So where did you learn all this? Like, where did this come from? Was it just like
it's just internal? Yeah, it's just internal. It's a combination of so many different things, but really about learning what sort of path I wanted to take, because originally I went into this for beauty. I started with makeup artistry and I had to get my esthetician license in the state of Florida to do makeup, which isn't the case anymore, but it forced me to learn facials. And I had never had a facial before, but I realized that there was something really, really special about human touch and how it can really heal people.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in the right way.
Right.
And the opposite occurs in the wrong way. Not necessarily with a facial, but when people are abused or touched.
Absolutely. And that's another
harshly.
reason why I want to provide a space where people can learn what safe touch is. And then people who aren't touched at all, people who have been single for 30, 40, 50 years, they come and get facials and you can just see them just completely relaxing.
Yeah.
Touch is important. It's part of community.
It's super important. I know I was in New York studying acting a few years ago, and I met a lady. She is a psychologist, but she works with a massage therapist because she says in New York, a lot of times people are so lonely. They're so in their own lives, so busy with work and the hustle and the bustle of the city. Even though there are millions of people around them, they're lonely. They're not connected. They don't get touch. And then she was working with this therapist to help the patients because she saw, like, when she does therapy with someone and they're getting treatments like facials or massages, they're being touched, the healing and the therapy is like much better. Works double as fast.
Well, I think that also has to do with taking the body from that fight or flight state into the the rest and relax state. So anytime that we can shift from our sympathetic to our parasympathetic in our nervous system, that can be done through touch. So some people find it really difficult to do that on their own. So they can use something like massages or facials to shift that, as well as sound healing. Sound healing will do the same thing. Yeah,
tell us a little bit more about that, because it's phenomenal. I remember the first time you were doing the sound. Is it called a sound bath? Or
so if it's inside, it's a sound bath. Outside is just like a sound meditation.
And what does that do? How does that work?
So what you're doing is essentially flooding the brain with different frequencies. So you're able to take your brain state from, say, a theta to back down to a delta state, to a very, very relaxed meditative state, which is more of our inner being state.
Yeah. And that helps you to relax, of course.
It does. It actually will help you get to a more relaxed state than just meditation on its own. It gives the brain something to focus on so that it can't start thinking about, oh, I need to go grocery shopping, or I have to go pick my kid up from school, and does he have soccer today?
Yeah.
It just overwhelms the brain with sound.
Yeah. And like for me in the beginning, I mean, I really struggled to get my brain to a state of not thinking of anything. I had to learn that. I went for a therapy called brain harmonics, and it was similar.
Okay.
They hooked you up to different machines and things, and then played sounds.
Okay.
And every time your brain relaxes and you're not thinking of something, because they tell you don't think about anything, just relax your brain, right? And every time your brain relaxes, it gets this sound that it likes on a certain level and a frequency.
That's really cool.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
Very
I love
interesting.
that.
Yeah. And I must have gone for like 20 or something sessions, because I think I needed more than the regular person.
But you know what? I don't know. I feel like that's kind of baseline. Everybody needs that.
Yeah. And it's almost, you got to train your brain to relax.
You do.
It just doesn't come naturally for everybody.
No. Yeah. I mean, I don't remember what the statistic is, but the amount of thoughts that we think in a single day is absolutely insane. And to think that we don't have to do any sort of work to sort of hone those thoughts or filter out the ones that really truly aren't our thoughts. Like, we just have random things swimming around in there all the time. I have ADHD, so there's all kinds of weird things happening in here.
So it's amazing that you have then been able to really focus on something like this so powerfully, even for someone having that. Do you feel like all the therapy and the sound bites and the environment that you're in and the touch, is that helping?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's healing me to help heal other people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is super special.
Yeah, because whenever I do like Reiki healing or sound healing, I am getting the same benefits as the client who's receiving the treatment.
Goodness.
So I'm getting better every single time I have a session.
That's incredible. So after a whole day of work, you're even better.
Well, sometimes I'm a little too relaxed.
And is it ever, like, do you ever get exhausted? Like, because people come in with all kinds of emotions and energy and stress levels. So it's kind of, you have to learn to like you said, you meet them where they're at, and then you've got to bring them down. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. How much does that take out of you?
Early on in doing different energy work like that, it really took a lot out of me. I mean, I was already going through a really heightened state after divorce, and opening up my own place and moving into my own space. So I did learn early on in my career with doing healing work that I needed to protect my boundaries, my spiritual, mental, emotional boundaries. And it has nothing to do with what the person coming in is coming to tell me or needs help with. It's, I had the tendency to want to take that energy from that person because I wanted it to go away for them. And in turn, I experienced some pretty heavy burnout.
Yeah, I can imagine. This is such a powerful topic, right? Because I think if people don't know this, that they can take someone's energy on, or, you know, that it can affect them so badly. If they don't realize that, like even in a normal relationship, in a family, in a household, in a work situation.
Absolutely.
It's no wonder people are burning out, because they haven't yet learned how to protect themselves.
Right. And I think, you know, especially in family dynamics, we have the tendency of taking responsibility for other people's, you know, behaviors or actions. And, you know, the empath is such a buzzword. I mean, everybody has that ability to have that level of not only empathy, but for our bodies to be scanning and understanding, is this a threat? Is this not a threat? You know, whenever you get to a state where you're constantly watching somebody's behavior and wondering if you did something wrong, you know, you're reaching like codependent levels here, and it's just not, it's not healthy.
Absolutely. My goodness, this is so powerful. So how did you actually start with, you know, protecting yourself? Like, is there anything people can start focusing on, or what worked for you?
For me, I'm a very visual person. my mind just works that way. So I'm able to kind of visualize. It's almost like a ritual. So after I would finish with a client, I would go and, wash my hands after treatment, and I would just visualize anything that did not belong to me was going down the water, down the drain with the water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. As simple as that. Just kind of intentionally focusing on releasing that.
And then also taking the time to really reflect, maybe not that day, but having periodic check-in points to kind of see what level of emotion that I have been at. Have I been more emotionally charged? Am I more short-tempered? Am I really emotional? More so than usual.
Yeah.
And I can find sometimes that, I'm really carrying this story that this person told me, and that's affecting me. So then I have to kind of go through that decoupling process of that's not mine, and that's okay.
Yeah, and just to release that. Man, that's so powerful. And if we don't do it all our life, can you imagine how much we're walking around with?
We walk around with so many people's baggage.
Yeah. And we don't understand it. We don't realize why we're so anxious and stressed out.
Right.
So super powerful.
Yeah. And if you don't have time to process after having a heated run-in with somebody, a lot of times we just kind of push that off and push the feelings down. You might have a really bad interaction with somebody in the checkout line. Maybe they're, shouting at you or the cashier. Your body is gonna have a reaction to that, a physical reaction to that. And if you're not able to kind of release, you can do it by shaking or kind of. There's different somatic exercises.
But yeah, to be
Somatics are
intentional
wonderful.
about it, right?
Yes.
And to notice that and to really, make a point of taking time. Like the time is so important, right? And not always thinking I'm too busy. We gotta make time for these things. Otherwise, we're gonna end up in, depressed and anxious and all of these things all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And our bodies are so powerful. We really just don't give them the credit that they deserve, because they whisper things to us all the time. And it can be a tightness in your jaw, or shoulder pain, neck pain, headaches, stomach aches. These are physical manifestations of the way that we have not listened to our body.
Wow.
It tries to tell us things softly, and then it gets louder and louder and louder whenever we don't listen. And then we end up in emergency situations.
Yeah.
Because our bodies are screaming at us.
And we don't listen.
No.
Because we don't know. And I think sometimes we don't know how to listen.
Right.
We've never been taught to listen to your body.
Yeah.
And to, like you say, stop, listen. What's your body trying to tell you?
And ask a question. Be curious about it. Where is this coming from? The more that you do it, the more that you'll be able to recognize, oh, my husband really set me off this morning, and that's why my jaw is extra tense. Okay, well, what can I do to resolve that situation? Is there a conversation that needs to be had?
Yeah, and then to have that. So lastly, and I think we're almost out of time, but you have these wellness workshops, right? That you have, is it once a year or?
It just depends
whenever.
on. Yeah. If I do get a group of girls that decides that they want to put together something, I can do different workshops. I can find different speakers. Just kind of create a day or a weekend where people can really just kind of focus on their healing and wellness.
Yeah, because I was on your Facebook page and it looks so incredible. What you guys are, all these people are so relaxed. And oh my goodness, it's beautiful.
That was where I actually experienced sound healing for the first time. I hired a sound healer to come and do a bath at one of the workshops that I did. And it was such an incredible experience that I was I have to know more about this.
So people can hire you and you can help them put that together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Awesome.
I kind of get a feel for what the needs are,
And where can they find you? If people want to reach out to you and come for facials, where can they find you?
So I'm most active on Instagram. There's always funny things in the stories. And, I try to be good about posting content, but that's the easiest way to reach me, or on my website.
Well, thank you so much. You've been amazing. Thank you for sitting with us and
Thank you
sharing
for
your
having me,
journey.
Lorna. I appreciate it.
And that is it from me, Lorna Grayling and M-powerTV. If you would like to get in touch with Kristen, take a look on the screen right now. Her Instagram page and links will be on there. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our episodes. We would really appreciate your support. And until next week, goodbye.